Hi, the Mudbrooker here. Today I'm going to be making some blueberry jelly, and I'm going to be using my secret jelly making weapon, my vintage fruit and lard press. Once I get the blueberries going, I'll take my camera and give you a little closer look at this thing. But the first thing we have to do is make blueberry juice. Now it's always best if you can use fresh fruit that's in season, but that isn't an option right now. I have some blueberries that I froze last summer when blueberries were in season, but I didn't have quite as many of them as I thought I did, so I got a bag of frozen blueberries from the store. To make this recipe, you'll need about 4 pounds of blueberries to start off with. And what I'm going to do, grab my pot here, is I'm going to put these all in a pot with a little bit of water. Oh, I got these double bagged. We put these in a pot with a little bit of water and bring them to a boil for a couple of minutes. That will help soften the blueberries and help to extract the juice better. These ones I got fresh last year are some real nice blueberries. I kind of wish I had some more of them, but I used them up somewhere along the line and didn't realize I was quite that short on them. Come on, you guys, get out of there. There we go. And I also have, this is like a 2.5 pound bag of store-bought frozen blueberries, which I'm just going to cut the top off and dump them in too. You can see them ones are a lot smaller than my other ones were. But at any rate, throw that away. Put them in a big pot with, maybe a cup or so of water. The water will help make a little steam as it gets started. Put this over on my burner there. Reach way over, grab my lid. I'm going to start them off on fairly lowish heat, a little bit less than medium. I don't want to scorch them, and that's what the water in the bottom is for, is also to help keep it from scorching. Well, let me grab my camera off of the tripod here quick. Hope I can do that without making you seasick. There we go. I'll come over and I'll show you this press. This is an antique fruit and lard press. There's also a sausage stuffing attachment for it, which I don't have and will probably never find. This one was made by Wagner, the same Wagner that made Wagner-ware cast iron cookware, and it's a little different than most of the presses you'll see of the time. With this, the screw is fixed. It's attached right directly to the bottom. The handle is hinged so it comes right off. Most of the ones you see have a yoke over the top. I'll get a picture of that and edit it in and show you what they look like. Here's one. They have a yoke over the top and the screw moves up and down and the handle is stationary, but this one is the opposite. You got your handle, your screw, you got a foot, and an inside basket with holes in it. Let me show you the patent date on that if that'll come out. Patented August, I can't turn it quite enough, get my light on there, patented August 20th, 1912. So this is an old press. Has the outer basket, or the inner basket rather, with holes in it, and a solid outer basket. The whole thing comes apart nice and easy to clean, and I got it bolted down to this rolling kind of table thing that I got. Bolted down to that with wing nuts, so when I'm done using it I can just tear the whole thing apart, take this right off and wash it all up. But once my blueberries get softened up and boiling, we'll be back and I'll put this into action. Alright, my blueberries come to a boil. I let them simmer for a minute or so, and it's time to start actually making some juice. I have a couple of jelly bags. You can see they've been used before, a strainer, and another pot. There's my nice steaming hot blueberries. I'm going to set them aside. I'll move this over a little closer. And I'm going to fill up my jelly bags. Now, if these don't all fit in 2 bags, that's okay. I can go ahead and make 2 batches. You know, make 1 batch, but press everything and then go ahead and run it through again. Oops, slopped a little. But get my bags filled up here. And I think these will all fit in 2 bags. Yeah. I'm not terribly worried about the getting all the juice out of them at this point, because that's what the press is for. But I think I'll get this one here tied off, and I can start in on my next one. I'm just going to take this and set it right down in my pot of juice and start filling the next one up. Him aside, tie this bag off. You know what I should have done in my other bag? I should have done what I'm going to do right now and wrap the strings around so that it seals it off completely. There, that's better. And then tie it. Tie it off good and tight. Yeah, just like that. So let me grab my other bag quick and retie it. Tie it right this time. Kind of muttered to myself, I'm not sure if I'm really talking quite loud enough for my microphone, but there we go. Wrap this one around the other way. There we go. What have I done here? Engaging video, I know, but sometimes you just gotta stop and make sure things are right before you go any farther. Now, there we go. There, that's the way I wanted that tied. Now, we're ready to get the press into action. Tip things down. There we go. I'm going to put my inside piece in. Put my outer piece on. Now this has got a groove in the spout down here so that you could hang a bucket off of this, but I don't have a decent metal bucket. So I'm just going to set my pot up on a stool and put my jelly bags in. Put one over there on that side. Put the other one over on the other side. Get rid of that. Put my foot on. There we go. And put the handle on. And we're going to start pressing. The trick to pressing things, whether it's in a little tabletop press like this or a big cider press, is to take your time at it. Tighten it down a bit. You can see us running out of there pretty good. Tighten it down fairly good at the first go around, and then let the juice run for a while. This whole process will probably take, 15-20 minutes or so of letting it squeeze, letting the juice run. Now, like I said, there's quite a few different varieties of these vintage presses. There's brand new presses that you can get. Usually they're wooden wine presses, tabletop sized. But something like this, a vintage one, you can find them in antique shops fairly easy online. They go for anywhere from $75 to $150, $175 a piece, depending on the size, the brand, the condition. Newer ones, I'm not sure what they really sell for because I haven't had to buy one, but anywhere from $100 to $200, I would guess. Maybe cheaper. I found this one for $40 at a thrift sale, so I got a pretty good deal on this one. But I'm going to go ahead and give this another squeeze. You can feel that it loosened up a bit while it was setting, and that's what you're hoping for. But you're going to let her squeeze, let her run, give it a squeeze, and I'll be back when this is all pressed out and ready to go. Alright, I've been pressing this for quite a while now. While I was pressing it, I got my jars all prepped. When you water bath can things, you have to be very careful with sterilizing your jars. And the best way I found to do that is to boil them for 15-20 minutes, and then they're nice and sterile. So while I boiled up my jars, I kept on squeezing and pressing with this. It's actually been more like 45 minutes, so it should be, if everything is right, pressed almost dry by now. Might still be some juice left in it, but not a whole lot. So I'm going to pull this up, get this out of the way. There's my one jelly bag, and it's a pretty firm, dry cake inside of there. Now, I did this last year with some blackberries, and these cakes that were left after I pressed it, I took those and put them in my dehydrator. Ended up something like a rice cake. There wasn't a huge amount of flavor to them, but they were kind of good. If nothing else, you can just throw that out in your compost pile. But I'll take these and set these aside for now. And I will put a piece of paper towel in my spout, because otherwise I can guarantee you there'll be one or two little drips that just got to come out after I move my pan out from under there. I'll take this off later and clean it up. Now, looks like I got plenty of juice, so everything should be good on that. If you're like a quarter cup or a half a cup short on your juice, you can usually cheat and add a little bit of water to bring it up. If you're more than that though, you're not going to have enough juice to make your jelly. If you have extra, you can freeze it, use it again later, make a batch of mixed jelly out of leftovers if you have 2 or 3 different kinds of fruits that you want to mix up. Or you can get some more berries and make some more juice. But anyway, I'm going to get this set up, start making jelly. Now my recipe, and I got this recipe off the Sure Gel website, calls for 3.5 cups of juice, a pack of pectin, and 4 cups of sugar. Another thing I've noticed about juice when you use a press like this is the juice tends to be a lot thicker, but it's still pretty clear, so there's not a lot of solids in it, but I think what's happening is you end up extracting more of the native pectin that's in the fruit than you would just by straining it through a bag. Getting close. One more lure. Okay, there's 3.5 cups. And you can see I've got a fair bit of juice left over. You can add a little bit of water, a little bit of sugar, make that into a fruit juice and just drink it. Or like I said, you can freeze it and save it for your next batch of jelly. But anyway, 3.5 cups of juice in the pan. Put that set aside. Turn my heat on and add the pectin. You're going to add the pectin, bring this to a boil, and then we add the sugar. I'll do this here so I'm not in the way of my own camera. Now this will take a minute or so to come up to a boil. So when I edit this, I'll speed this along a bit. Okay, my jelly and pectin mixture has come to a full rolling boil. A full rolling boil is a boil that won't go away when you're stirring it. We add the 4 cups of sugar, get that all dissolved, and bring it back to a full rolling boil again. Once we're back to a full rolling boil, start a timer and cook it for exactly 1 minute. You also want to stir this constantly, especially after you add the sugar, because you don't want it to scorch. Alright, we've come to a full rolling boil. Time to start the timer and let that go for exactly 1 minute. Okay, there's my timer. Take it off of the heat. Stir it down a little bit so it quits boiling. Let me move a couple of things around and we'll be ready to start filling jars. Alright, my jars are sitting back here, a little bit off camera there. They're all prepped and cleaned, sterilized, ready to go. I have my lids sitting in some hot water. In the olden days, you used to have to put them in boiling water for a few minutes to soften the compound, but they've changed the formula over the years, so nowadays all you really need is let them sit in hot water for a little bit. Got a little bit of white vinegar for wiping off the rims of my jars, and we're ready to go. Grab a jar, I'm using 1/2 pints, and fill it until you have a 1/4 inch of headspace left. And I get the feeling this is going to set really well because it's already pretty thick. I'm going to fill 7 jars right away and get those in the canner. I should get about 10 or 11 1/2 pints out of this batch. And I didn't get really any foam on this. A lot of times your jelly will foam, and some people put a tablespoon or so of butter in to help prevent that. I usually just skim it off, but I didn't really have that happen this time, so I'm not going to worry about it. 3. I don't think I'm going to get 10 half pints out of this. Kind of hard to guess sometimes, even going by what they tell you in the recipe. Looks like I only get 6 or 7. One thing you never want to do when you're making jelly is try and get away with doubling the recipe. It just isn't going to work. I don't know why, but it doesn't, so don't do it. Yeah, I'll be doing good to get 6 half pints out of this. But that's okay, because then I can get them all in one canner load, because I can put 7 in my canner. Get this out of the way. This and this. Now, wipe off my rims and any that you dribbled on the sides. You gotta be careful to wipe your rims off good, because if there's anything left on the rim, it will keep the jar from sealing, and even if it does seal, that little bit of residue will provide a path that bacteria can follow, and whatever you can turn bad on you, which defeats the purpose of canning it in the first place. Jellies are pretty forgiving because they have a very high sugar content, and sugar, like salt, when it's in a high enough concentration, will draw the moisture out of bacteria, and it'll cause them to dry out and die. But the problem is botulism, the bacteria that causes botulism, also forms spores, which aren't affected by salt or sugar or things like that to as much of a degree as actual bacteria are. So you have to be very careful when you're water bath canning to make sure that everything is as sterile as possible before you begin, and use good canning practices. Put your bands on finger tight, which is hard for me because I have big strong hands and I tend to over tighten them a bit. So, but get them on finger tight. You don't want to crank them down too hard, because if you crank them down too hard, especially when you're pressure canning, it won't allow the pressure to escape from inside the jar when you're canning, and it'll bowl the lid up and it'll wrinkle the lid and it won't seal right. Okay, I've got my water boiling already over here in my canner. Let me tip you up so you can see that, and I'll load her up. There's 2, there's 4, and there's 6. Lower them in. Make sure you have at least 1.5 inches to 2 inches of water over the top of your jars. There's plenty in there. I'm going to cover this. I'm going to turn my heat back up a little bit. And when this comes back to a full rolling boil again, it's kind of settled down right now because of the jars being a bit cooler than the rest of it. But when that comes to a full boil again, you start your timer and process these for 10 minutes. I'll be back in a little bit when those are ready to come out, and we'll carry on. I'm going to show you quick what I meant by a full rolling boil. Hopefully you can see that in there. That's definitely a full rolling boil, so I'm going to start my timer now and give them 10 minutes. Okay, there's my timer going off. So we are done. Turn my heat off. Take the lid up. And fish out my handles. There. Now I have a terrible habit of wanting to tip the jar and pour that little bit of water off the top. Don't do that. You don't want to tip your jars when you're taking them out or when you're setting them off. Just leave that little bit of water right on top of there. If it really bugs you, you can take the corner of a piece of paper towel and just soak it off of there really gently without actually touching the lid, because you don't want to touch the lids. When you take them out, set them off on a towel or a canning mat. Leave some space between them so you can get air circulation through there, but do not cover them. Certain foods are susceptible to a thing called flat sour. Flat sour is a harmless bacteria that causes basically a fermentation. It won't make your food unsafe to eat, but it'll make it taste nasty. And if food cools down too slow, there's certain temperature ranges where that bacteria will thrive. It's not killed by most canning processes, and you don't want that to happen because it'll give your food a nasty off taste. So some things are more susceptible to it than others, but never cover your jars. You want them to cool quickly but naturally. Make sure there's no big draft going through here, but allow air to circulate through them so they cool down fairly fast. And I see a couple of these have already sealed. And that's how you make jelly. I'm pretty confident that this will gel very nicely because, let me duck under my camera, the little bit that was left in my pot is already set up hard, just cooling. And this was pretty thick to start with, so I'm pretty sure this is going to work out nice. Well, that's it for my video. I hope you enjoyed it. And that's how you make blueberry jelly. I highly recommend that you get some sort of a fruit press for making jellies, because it really gets a lot more of the juice extracted, and the juice is a lot better quality than it would be just letting it drip through a plain jelly bag. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time.